This morning here, we know the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, heading to the southern border today, where he's expected to discuss illegal immigration and drug trafficking as well. This comes as Democrats and Republicans are having discussions on Capitol Hill about increasing fentanyl overdoses. The chief of the U.S. Border Patrol says since the start of the year, 476 pounds of fentanyl have been seized along the southwest border. We just talked about that locally here. We're dealing with that here. Joining us now to discuss how Republicans in the House are making the southern border one of their top priorities, reporter Doug Luzader for us in Washington, D.C. Reporter Doug, good morning. Great to have you.
Good morning.
All right, so on the surface level, who is the Speaker meeting with today? Where is he going right now?
Well, look, I think we're seeing kind of across the board a lot of concern with what's happening at the border. We have McCarthy's delegation in Arizona meeting with border enforcement folks down there. We've also seen this the Senate Foreign Relations Committee yesterday taking up the issue of fentanyl, which is, of course, directly related to what's happening at the border as well, because so much of that is smuggled across. So it's really these kind of twin issues that are coming to the forefront here, and it's not just right along the border. And both of these issues are really fanning out across the country. As far as illegal immigrants are concerned, we've seen a lot of these folks transported to other cities, Martha's Vineyard. New York City has been dealing with just a deluge of individuals that have been bussed there from border towns in Texas. So we're seeing this kind of nationalized now, and the same is true of fentanyl. I mean, a number of communities in every state have been dealing with the impact of this drug because it is so potent and it can be so deadly.
So talk a little bit about the significance of this trip, especially with Speaker McCarthy heading there as well. What do they hope to gain from this, or is it just, a PR thing? What do you think?
Well, look, these trips to the border often do have a public relations element to them. President Biden was kind of goaded into going to the border eventually because he hadn't been there, and he did make a brief stop there. You've got the new Speaker of the House going down there with freshman Republican lawmakers. For some of them, it may be a first trip to the border. I'm really not sure, but nevertheless, I think they know by and large what they're going to see there. They're obviously going to see it up close, and there's something to be said for doing that. But the concerns really extend beyond just, making this a partisan issue. There really are significant impacts around the country when we look at communities that are dealing not just with illegal immigration, but the impact of the drugs.
All right, so when we talk about fentanyl as well, I mean, you're talking, we've talked about it so much here, and we know that it's coming from cartels, but we're also learning that China is supplying the substances for it. So what is the bipartisan reaction to that? I mean, what's being done about that?
It's a multi-step issue. Mm-hmm. I mean, you do have some of these drugs produced in China, and then they come across with the cartels into the United States. And, we're seeing that recognition in Congress at a time when relations with China are strained, to put it mildly, with that Chinese spy balloon that crossed most of the country. So, this really does kind of hone in on what is a growing problem right now, and that's the U.S. relationship with China. And it's not just their surveillance programs, it's, industrial espionage. It's the growing issue with Taiwan and the potential for an invasion there. So there are all kinds of issues now really coming to a head with China.
It's so interesting to see the worldwide connection with some of these issues that we face every single day. Doug Luzader for us in Washington, D.C. We appreciate you as always. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right, this morning.